Hey, today we're having a look at the new Sirui Aurora 35mm F1.4 lens here for Fujifilm. We're testing it on the X-M5, which I find quite interesting because this is actually a full frame lens. It's also available for Sony and Panasonic, but as you might know, Fujifilm is APS-C, so we're having a 50% smaller sensor. That's interesting because it might give us some advantages, especially considering that the X-M5 can record open gate, but it might also give us some disadvantages in terms of sharpness. We'll see about that. I would say let's start this video by having a look at some shots I got with it. Yeah, we're getting a few drops of rain here right now, which leads me to the body of this lens. Let's start directly. It has weather sealing at the back, which I think coming at this price, $550 around, is actually pretty good. Aside from that, when it comes to the body, I also think that it overall feels really good. It's not as premium quality as you get with G Master lenses or so, but I have nothing to complain. Like, it all feels solid. And now this lens also comes with lots of features actually. It comes with the aperture ring at the back, which is declickable via that button here. It's quite nice if you want to change the aperture smoothly while recording video, but also if you just want to lock it in, what I usually prefer, then you have those clicks. I think the clicks could be a bit stronger. Like, the ring itself has a good resistance to it, but the clicks itself turn pretty easily still, so I think it is possible to have like a thought of a stop exposure change accidental if you're not careful. Not a big deal, but yeah, it could be a bit more. And aside from that, it also comes with an iris lock here. That's something that we don't see a lot, and a function button that you can program, and also an AF/MF switch, which is nice. And there's one thing I don't really like about this lens, which is that it comes with a 62mm filter thread. I think they could have just made 67, because then it fits so many other lenses and the filters that you have for them. So here you would always have to use step-up rings. That's a little downside, and that's also a reason why you don't see any motion blur in this video and all of the shots I got with this lens. I don't have a step-up ring right now. And it also comes with a USB-C port, which is appreciated, so you get firmware upgrades in the future if there's something to upgrade. I do already think yes, because while I used this lens on the X-M5, I did have some problems. Like, one time the camera got stuck while I used the AF/MF switch, and that obviously shouldn't happen. And also when I try to use the manual focus setting in the focus breathing test that we will have later, I noticed that it didn't really change the focus, or it changed it way too late. So I think there is definitely some improvement when it comes to the communication between the lens and the camera. But I have to say, Fujifilm is actually the only system where I encountered such problems like camera freezes. And yeah, the manual focus stuff, what I just explained, I never encountered before. So it might not just be a problem with this lens, it's probably just the communication between the lens and Fujifilm. And I'm pretty sure that there will be a software update for that soon, because generally I used Sirui lenses quite a lot in the past, also on Fujifilm cameras, and I never had problems with those lenses. And aside from that, the lens weighs 490 grams. It's definitely on the lower side. Like, most of them are already above 500 grams, at least when it comes to full frame lenses. I have to say, even on the X-M5, I expected this lens to be a bit more front heavy than it actually is, which is good. I would say the most front heaviness here comes still from just not having a grip on this specific camera. So if you use this lens on an XS20 and XH2, XH2S or so, it will actually be a really good fit, because then you have a bit more grip. Then I would probably argue that it might not be front heavy at all. Okay, so much about the body. I would say let's come to quality next and let's go somewhere else. Definitely a few more raindrops now. So let's come to the image quality of the Aurora 35mm F1.4 lens. Overall, when I look at all the shots I got, like I mostly shot video here, I'm more the video guy than a photo. I find the shots pleasing. Like, the focal length is actually quite nice, even on APS-C. Like some of the shots I got even at like f2.8 and f4, and I still got a decent amount of blur. So at this focal length, even on APS-C, you do still get quite a lot of blur, even if you have to step down. And I had to step down quite often because, again, like I don't have an ND filter here currently for it, and the X-M5's shutter speed is also limited to 4000, so I couldn't film wide open all the time. And talking about sharpness, I did some photos where I looked at the sharpness, and I would say even at f1.4, even on APS-C, this lens is already quite sharp. However, when you stop down to like f2.8, you notice that it gets a tiny bit sharper, but not a lot, and you only really notice that when you crop in. So in my opinion, it's perfectly fine to shoot wide open on this lens. And coming back to the bokeh, I think there we also get a nice effect from shooting a full frame lens here on APS-C, because what I notice is that when you look at the bokeh balls, they are cat's eye shape towards the edges, but I feel like the cat's eye shape starts a bit later than on other lenses that I've tested before. So you get a bit more round balls in the middle, not just in the center completely, but also when you go a bit more towards the edges. And I find that quite nice. And also overall, it's a really smooth and pleasing bokeh. There's a little bit of texture in the bokeh balls, but nothing that actually disturbs, and also again something that you only really notice when you crop in. So I think it's beautiful performance. I like the bokeh of this lens, but it is a bit different, not completely, but a bit when it comes to vignetting. Like I expected there is probably no vignetting at all, but that's not true. Like if we're looking at wide open at f1.4, you can definitely notice quite a bit of vignetting there, but I would say it is definitely on the better side. Like most lenses that I've tested that have wide open apertures like f1.4, f1.8, f1.2 do have more vignetting than that, so it is good performance on an APS-C camera. So I wouldn't really worry about that with this lens, just like I expected a tiny bit more. I think that's probably because they use the 62mm version, maybe to keep the weight below 500 gram for marketing purposes or so. I would have preferred 67mm, maybe then we would literally see zero vignette, but also having it a bit more compatible when it comes to filters and step-up rings. Anyway, I have to say, like, the vignette is so low again that even if you shoot open gate, it's not really distracting, and you can really easily fix that without introducing too much noise. And when it comes to chromatic aberrations, I literally didn't notice any chromatic aberrations in my shots. I don't test it artificially anymore because for quite some time all lenses that I've tested didn't really suffer from that, at least not in a way where I would notice that under actual shooting conditions. And I think that matters overall. Like, I could now artificially test it and maybe you would see a little bit, but ultimately what matters is that your actual shots look good. So I think when it comes to chromatic aberrations and stuff, I wouldn't worry with this lens. I didn't notice anything. And yeah, that's why I would say the image quality from this lens, even on APS-C cameras, is really nice. So I don't have anything to complain. I can recommend it. But let's have a look at the autofocus now. And let's test the autofocus, at least for face tracking. I've set it to the fastest setting now on the X-M5 because I noticed before already that it's a bit slow. And also I use face tracking without eye detection because that's like my general setting on Fujifilm cameras. There I got the best results. It like never jumps or so then. But what I want you to do is to not just look at my face while I do the autofocus test, but also look at the background, because on Fujifilm cameras with every lens, as far as I remember I tested, I did get a bit of stepping in the background when the focus changed. On some lenses it's a bit more pronounced, on some lenses a bit less, but I noticed that it's always there. So let's see how that is here. Bit behind her. Okay, that was good. Yeah. I don't think it's a sports lens and probably not a sports setup at all, but for like usual face detection, it should be perfectly fine. And also when it comes to focus breathing of this lens, I did a little test inside my studio, and I have to say the breathing on this lens is actually pretty low. Like for video work, this is actually a fantastic lens. And the motor noise was also zero. I could literally not hear it at all. So in that regards, it's actually a really good video lens. But what do you think about the autofocus here? Do you think the tracking works fine, or does it need improvement? Also, the minimum focusing distance of this lens is 35 centimeters. Considering that it's a bit more than 50mm equivalent on full frame cameras, it's actually not too bad. How close can I get? I think there it struggles, yeah. But yeah, you probably won't really have to go that close usually. Okay, let's wrap this up. I think overall, if you're looking into this lens for Fujifilm, you will be really happy. However, I think it's probably not the right lens for the X-M5 because you just don't have a grip. I mean, if you use a small rig grip or so for this camera, then yeah, it's not a problem at all again with front heaviness. But yeah, if you just want to keep the body as small as it is, then yeah, maybe it's not the right one. What I would consider in that case is the 33mm from Sirui, the F1.4. It gives you even more blur wide open. Also a bit more vignetting as far as I remember. Like I tested a whole set there, and I think there was a little bit more, which makes sense because the lenses are a bit smaller and you get a wider aperture. So yeah, I would probably look into the 33mm F1.4 as well, just because of more blur. It's even lighter, it's even smaller, so that fits better, especially for this camera, but maybe also some others, especially Fujifilm X-S20. However, I think if you're especially shooting the X-H2S and X-H2 or so, like the bit bigger bodies from Fujifilm, then definitely look into this lens. Like, I like the quality of it. And also, if you're shooting Sony APS-C, for example, then maybe also look into that, because if you switch to full frame later, you can also use this lens on your full frame cameras later. You just go from a, 54mm lens to a 35mm lens, which is great. Like 35mm 1.4 focal length is probably my favorite focal length on full frame cameras because it's so versatile. I can easily film myself, and I can also easily shoot B-roll with that. So yeah, it's actually a really nice lens to look into if you're already on Sony APS-C and might want to upgrade in the future. I will leave links to this lens both for Fujifilm and Sony and also L-mount in the description below. So if you found this review helpful, then consider purchasing through this link if you want to get this lens, because there I get a small commission. You don't pay anything extra. So it's a great way to support this channel and it doesn't cost you anything. And yeah, also check out this video here for the Sirui sniper lenses where the 33mm F1.4 is included that I've mentioned, because these are also excellent lenses that you might want to look into if you're interested into this one here. This is also a bit better built overall, I would say. So I'm out, and I hope to see you in the next video.